Hi, if anybody's there. This is my first time going live with this setup. So let's see. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Hi, and welcome when you join. I'm going to do a little playing. Let's see. Can I rotate the camera? Oh, well, of course I can. Rotate device. Yes. There we go. Oh, okay. Ah, let's see. Can I? What is happening? I don't know what's happening. Okay, we'll just leave it like this. But I am going to play a little bit with the lighting. So, and then do some sound and get started. So today is about, I'm going to talk about the civils a little bit. Let's see. Brighter is better, maybe. I have different colors too. Let's see. No. Obviously, when you get to this, if you're watching this later on, you can skip through this part. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave that one. Okay, so I don't have anything close by. I guess I do. Give me just a moment. Do a little singing bowl for sound, for vibration to get started. And I just changed I got a new setup, right? The light and everything. Trying this out. It's kind of exciting. And then talk about some messages, some downloads, messages of this year to next year. Oh, that's right, it's on the phone. Gosh, right. Maybe I can pull it up on this phone. Okay. Hi, welcome. It's been an interesting last couple of days because of just some studying and some recent discoveries that I've found and wanted to share with you. Mostly going to end with the messages from the Great Mother and that. So first, I'm going to start with the 9-moon calendar. Okay, so something that's come up recently is the 9-moon calendar. Not come up recently, but discussions about our calendar. And if you've had a chance, you can go back to some of my older videos where I talk about the 9-day calendar. Because my theory is that, okay, a lot of what we've been taught and a lot of what is written has been mistaught. And something that I found interesting. So if you don't know, or if this is your first time joining me, I've been recently studying Hebrew, and I noticed in some of my old Bible decodes, I hadn't started studying Hebrew yet, and I didn't really look into the matches of what is in the Civil Bible and what is now, commonly known. And so I've also been learning that there is a script that goes with the print of Hebrew. And I did a video quite a while back ago about how we have been mistaught about numbers, how numbers are used to basically create magic in this world, magic and language. And then with the calendar and numbers, even with December, which we call number 12, but is actually Dec, which is 10. And if we're looking into things such as gematria and the magic of numbers, that's included. There's a reason why these months are named differently and have different numbers than they're actually named for. And each month has a name specifically for a reason, also with created magic. And then this time of year, which we call a season, which is spelled SEA, like the sea, and sun, like the son of. I feel like, again, this is a total, I just thought of this the other day when I was writing it, like this season. And you break those words down and you recognize that there is a link between the sea and water and that feminine energy, and then to names that we have of things. Again, it's there again. Okay, so this month I tried deciphering on my own the 9-day calendar. So if you don't know, I'm going to talk about it again real quickly. And my theory is that we are given hints blatantly, like the name feminine, which we pronounce feminine, but the last 4 letters of it actually spell 9. And then if you break down that word even more, phi, 9, and phi in numbers or in equations has a position, okay, of kind of creation, or of, say, like the Fibonacci sequence, which is a big swirl, which also looks like a 9. Okay, and I was talking about Hebrew in a video I had done a while back ago, and my theory is that there is feminine, the feminine writing had more curves to it, and in the script there's a bunch of curves. I haven't gotten so far, but there's curves in the script in Hebrew, that I theorize could have been mistranslated or reappropriated, okay, or retaught in a way that it's a symbol, which it is a symbol, but it also has a meaning behind it. So going into the 9-day calendar, and so I'm going to tell you some of the stuff, and then I'm going to theorize about magics of stuff, because there are 9 planets, and the moon and the sun are not included in this 9-day week calendar, because my theory is that we more worshipped, quote unquote, worshipped or watched the stars and the moon and the earth and us on it and the seasons more than we gave so much to just the sun. I think we followed everything, and we were on the earth, so we gave the energy to that. Okay, so I'm looking as to when the new moon is, because when we have a new moon and a full moon, they typically last 3 days. For example, we're having our solstice, which means our days are going to start getting longer again, on the 21st. And guess what? It's also a new moon. Oh, I put it down as a day out. Okay, so it was a day off. So here's what I was downloaded, and then is also now one of my theories, which I got through learning about gematria and the number correlation between rituals that are happening and what I believe is also the ancient knowledge taught from the Sibyls, who used it to benefit the communities and to keep each other healthy and to get downloads rather than to manipulate. And I think that that's why certain words and certain mathematical problems were only given to certain people because of the power that they will hold. Okay, so the new moon would actually begin on the 21st, and then it lasts through the 23rd. So in the calendar, it will say the new moon is on the 23rd, but that's actually the last day of it. But what's interesting is, okay, according to my calculation, that is also Earth Day. That would be the first day of the new moon would be the 21st, being Earth Day. And I believe that it goes in threes. 3, 6, 9. I think 7. I think 7 is a corner. It is an angle. It is a symbol. And so when we have 3, 6, 9, we have more curves and we have more alignment to changes. So the 3, 6, 9 correlation would go like this. It would start as the first day of the new moon. So I also posted, if you follow me on Instagram, I just posted a video from a guy who's talking about how the calendars, another kind of calendar, and then relating it to the divine feminine. And in some of my studies, I've researched like Jupiter was the beginning of time, but that time was originally time, and the concept of it was originally started through the woman's menses, her monthly period. It's like named after the month and the moon. And new information is coming about the moon and about these galactic energies. And what I keep getting is how we've been taught and how we conceive is like 50-50. Like we're half right, but also there's a whole bunch about creation that was like stifled to us, which I'm getting to one of the message, well, part of the message for next year and what's to come is that it's new information. Okay, so the first day of the month would be the new moon. And so then it would start with Earth, and then the closest planet to Earth is Mercury, and then the next closest planet is Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Saturn ends up being the 6th day. Okay, and so what's very interesting is Saturn is given the number 7, but with the 9-day calendar, Saturn is given the number 6. And this is a particular interesting time to be talking about Saturn because a lot of this month's energies are devoted to Saturn, and it would fall on the 6th day. And then also it falling on the 6th day would have it falls on the 15th, which also equals 6. So you'll start seeing, and Uranus actually ends up being the 7th day. And if you go by monthly things, Uranus is an auspicious day that you don't practice magic or spells. You prepare. Okay. Can I pause this? Is that possible to pause the live? Okay, well, I'll let you look at some. I gotta let my cat in, obviously, if you guys can. So I'll be right back. Be right back. All right, thanks for waiting. Or scrolling forward because no one's watching right now, so that's all right. Okay, so then we go through the 9 days ending with Pluto. And then when we end with Pluto, which is on the 9th day, it's the farthest planet away, its depth, it relates to Scorpio, it relates to magic, it relates to, I also think, the divine feminine. And I also think that this is why we see, like, I don't know, consider it kind of like making fun of these planets like Pluto. I've mentioned this before, Pluto the dog, the Disney character. Okay, then there would be days out of time, days out. So when it's the full moon, there are no days out, but when it's the new moon and we enter into the next cycle, there will be anywhere from 2 to 3 days out, just like with the full moon or the new moon. And so as we go into January, the first day of January, and we're going to talk about a little bit about numbers, but let's see, we'll just have exited a new moon, and the first day of January would be oh, I did have it right. Hi. Yeah, and so the third day would be the third day of the new moon this month, would end with Venus, and then and it also equals 5 that day. And that's another thing. One of the Hebrew letters, I think it's Dalet, looks like 5 when it's written in script. So I would say, please bear with me while I figure out Mars. So we have the days of the week are given to us. However, they also include the moon, Monday, and the sun, Sunday. And so that only actually gives us 5 planets to work with. But my theory is that magically we knew to work with, and we didn't just work with the planets, but we also followed the stars that taught us the seasons. And then we saw how that went with the periods and the waters, right? All the things that link us to life, all the things that go back to the feminine. So, and so on Christmas Day would actually be Jupiter. So it would be Jupiter and Sun energy because we're in this program of this calendar time, we include it because we're slowly moving out of these energies, but for right now we include that energy, right? So the Sun and Jupiter together is so Christmas Day will be, is my theory, a somewhat of a, I don't know, I'm hearing like powerful and like surprising. Jupiter, I'm hearing like father time. So maybe something will be shown about time, or people will notice a time shift, I'm guessing, and enlightenment about something. But also, a lot of people are going to be going to, a lot of energy is going to be extracted, so to speak, because this is the trick of things. It's off because it's the first day of the week, not actually the 7th day of the week. And the energy that we would have actually given would be on Saturday or the 7th day, which technically isn't really Saturday, it would be Uranus Day, which is, I'm about to figure this out, Tuesday. Tuesday the 27th would be Uranus Day. And that would, and we're also in Capricorn as far as the astrological energy goes. So we include all of this, and then we include the energy of the new moon that had just passed. So will be a combination of truths coming out, some, I'm hearing like, the energy would say like surprising information, and new moon energy, and possibly what those would consider, those who, like a covering of um, something. We'll see what happens. Okay, and then Neptune and Pluto. And then basically, starting the new year on Venus Day. And if you add those numbers together, for January the 1st, 2023, it comes to 11, and it's also the first, so it would be a triple, or like two gateways number wise, as far as the magic downloads that I heard. So it can, if it's being, and then also where there's continuation of several holidays going on, or holy days where lots of energy is given, lots of food, and lots of quote unquote like burnt offerings. And these are things that aren't always talked about. So, and this isn't necessarily bad, it's just a bridge showing that there are links between old ways and what are now modern day practices, moving into what are being called new age practices, but it's actually a remembrance, an old remembrance. So with that, we'll move on to the next part, which is the goddess. Because I think that this time of year is almost like another blatant showing to us of the energy. So it's a time of, okay, there's several things happening in this month and energy, and this is why, cool, this is why we this is why it's become what it's become, as far as like all of the world, and in the country I live in specifically. So this is in the storyline, it's a time of motherhood and new birth, new beginnings. In astrology, it is the eclipse where the sun starts, the days start getting brighter, we're heading into spring. With the moon, we will just have gone through a new moon, which can also bring new beginnings, and also is a definite sign of the feminine. And then we have the name of the month is 10, so it would match December deck. So this would also match with new beginnings, and it also match with 1. So we have a double gateway as well. So we have 1 in December hidden in the name, and then we have 1 in January. Okay, not hidden in the name, just blatant. Okay, so January is named after Janus, which is a female goddess, and Janus relates to Jupiter. Okay, this is why we see Father Time in the old movies, and when it comes to Christmas. So there is definitely a link with the calendar and the appropriation of father over the mother, because we're experiencing an entire month that's pretty much devoted to the mother. And you see it in the hearth and in the wreath, in the flowers and the colors, in the green, in the harvest, in the food. Um, it also goes back to indigenous practices of mushrooms, hunting for mushrooms, taking mushrooms, celebrating and connecting with the divine spirit. We talk about the doves. We have a lot of dove representation in this time of year. We also have the pine cone and the pine tree, which is both related to the nature, Gaia, and to what is said to be the pineal gland, leading us to the hypothalamus, leading us to um, a connection, a higher connection. Okay, so I have two books that we're just going to check in with: the Atlas of the Bible, which I've shared before in older videos, and this one. Okay, so I'm just going to go like this, and without looking at it, I just kind of want it to, because my theory is that this is where we live right now, is actually um, what is talked about in the Bible, the Americas. And so this is that upside down. So this would be like, okay, yeah, Florida. This would be the Mississippi. This would be the Gulf of Mexico. Gulf of Mexico. And this would also, I mean, a lot of authors talk about this, but it might be where we can say that things are not as they're shown to us on maps, because this could be like what is considered Europe now, and then now Africa, right? What is called Africa? See that big part right there? Because it's supposed to be, right? This is supposed to be the Middle East. This is the Dead Sea. This is the Nile, right? And then when we're talking about the mandala effect, I should look at that map real quick. I thought that there was a state in the United States. I think I've already talked about this. Okay, so the character of biblical history. I want to just show some pictures. Evacuations of Palestine. All right, so this is pictures of the Near East and the Red Sea and Egypt. And so I'm just going to show them to you upside down. Because I think most of our history is taught upside down. Okay, let's see. This is King Hammurabi. Cuneiform. I've been saying Cumaic. I swear that that's part of the mandala effect, because now I can't find Cumaic. It's cuneiform. But cuneiform also looks like Cume, like C-U-M-E. Cume. Cume form. Writing. I think this is originally from a Sibyl. Oops. Okay. And then I'm being told to just say that there will be information. This is a Moabite stone, Moab, the time of Ahab, which is supposed to be here in the Americas. Okay, there's this tablet. Oh, and I just shared on the channel about the Grand Canyon And I think that, let's see, that's called the Salt Sea. Is that now the Dead Sea? I'll have to look that up. That the Grand Canyon holds a bunch of information that, okay, here's some other pictures that are similar to the Grand Canyon. Is this the Grand Canyon? Is that even possible? Certain names named after Egyptian deities. And then I've spoken about, hey, is that a face in the rock? That looks like a face in the rock. Looks like an indigenous face in the rock. Those all look like faces. Okay, I'm gonna look this up. Show you guys right there. So, right there. And then all along the sides, they look like people. Okay. Something very similar in the Grand Canyon as what I'm showing you here. I just think that, anyhow, in this book is where I learned about Byblos, and Byblos is located off of what is now called Syria, I believe, but used to be Phoenicia. And then it shows like the brief empire of the Chaldeans, the Persian Empire, the Black Sea, the Red Sea, the Caspian Sea, Mediterranean Sea. I mean, we see those buildings over there. We see that there is actually history over there. But isn't there's got to be a link, because there's something very similar like this in New Mexico, in the Americas. So and this is my theory is this is a female, and a lot of the original, teachers and such were female, as I've said before. Okay, and then down here. Okay, then the old pictures and the old artifacts. This is out of the language of the goddess. And it's one of the books I wanted to talk. Oh, okay. So they've been digging up, like they've been finding a lot of what has been showing up for us is the Olmecs, and they talk about the Easter Island statues and how part of the bodies were buried, and what they're going to start finding. Okay, and this will lead into the messages. And then I wanted to talk about something real. Oh, and then I think I'll also talk a little bit about Lilith, because somebody posted this on a video I did like 3 years ago, and let's talk about that a little bit. Talk about like the system of manipulation. So I'm out of it now, but I was, and you've heard me mention this in other videos, was in a relationship that I don't think was very healthy at all. It was not very healthy at all. And it propelled me into learning about narcissism and codependency, and what I think is, and it ultimately led me to what I think is the giant spell on the planet, which is basically to create narcissists and codependents, because then you're just not even able to tap into what your great powers are. And so I'm saying that because I look at the videos that I was doing like 5 years ago, when I was just starting to really get excited about all this information that the indigenous people are actually us, meaning who those so-called African Americans, and that God is goddess, probably a woman, and um, watching like this surgence of information coming out, and then getting into unhealthy relationship. And literally, I deleted one video because the energy in it is just so dark. And definitely, this is where in this, what is called the so-called spiritual groups and such, what has been happening recently is actually a kind of like a coded search for certain energies and certain, I think, symbols, the the divine feminines who are tapped into something way earlier. And on this phone, gosh darn it, and I say that only because I wanted to share it with you guys. Um, I was doing a little bit of research about the indigenous and found another story that led me. Um, so Providence Island here in the United States was also a sanctuary for people who wanted to practice uh, religion in their own way because of a woman named Anne. I can't remember her last name, but she and Roger Williams, who was an Englishman who helped the Wampanoag and the Narragansett um, have negotiations with other British people who are English who basically ended up screwing them over. But this guy did not. Then helped them keep Providence Island until basically, as we now know, most lands don't belong to the indigenous peoples anymore. So she had been accused because she didn't believe that you weren't allowed to speak up and ask questions about religion. And she was accused of not behaving like a woman is supposed to, which is basically not ask any questions and just go along with things. And she fought it, guess what? Using the Sybil Bible. She used quotes out of the Bible to defend herself, and she still was convicted. So it's just, I'm mentioning this because these are part of the things that are going to start coming out in the future. So back to these statues. So there's been giant statues of Olmecs showing up and reminding us who we are and where we're really from. And what they're going to find is that those heads are women's. They're going to find a lot of the Sumerian statues. This is in some of the, I'm getting this information also from the studies of watching and doing a little bit of research on the ancient Egyptians and the Sumerians. Also, just studying indigenous cultures where they do a thing where men will dress like women and women will dress like men to represent the gods and the goddesses in us. And um, so, and then we have stories in like my era and younger of say like the bearded woman or the completely covered in hair boy. Well, this is where we get the stories of like not just stories but truths of what people used to be like. And we still to this day have women who have beards. So they're going to start finding that these ancient sculptures and representations were women, or what we nowadays would say like an Aphrodite, hermaphrodite. And that is something, that is something that I know each person is going to have their own opinions about, but these are messages that will start surfacing throughout where nature and remembrance will come together, because what has been kind of like exercised into what we see today was not the original. Okay. So Did I talk about most everything I want to talk about? Yes, the calendar, the Sibyls, some of those portraits. And I say Sibyls, oh, and then Lilith. Um, you're right, there's not a lot of, so the person who mentioned it in the comment from the video 3 years ago. Um, and with that, like, this is, so my own personal experience, and this matches also what's happening in the world. So once women and the world starts figuring out that we've been under like um a narcissistic Stockholm syndrome type programming, and we personally get out of those relationships and we personally start making changes in our own personal lives and saying no to the said narcissist and saying no to the said toxic information or patternings, then the higher will also start crumbling, because it will, each of those people are actually individuals, and so as they're being told in their individual lives. And this will reverberate because we're seeing things happening across the world right now that are definitely an atrocity to the divine feminine and to, children. So the messages, am I, did I finish that thought? If not, if I remember it later, I'll post it. Um, just trying to link everything, I think. All right, messages for now, which we talked about a little bit, the numbers and such, and what happened this year and what's happening this year is that kind of recognition of like, oh, these are not true. This is a pattern. This is, what's it called? Trauma bonding. And this is, ruminating. And this is toxic behavior. And this is happening because I or they, weren't seen as a child, weren't listened to, and so and they bring in the practice of taking care of themselves. And the reverberation is all things starts getting cleared up from generational things to today, and then you even stumble upon information like I did today that just kind of floors you that you didn't know was out there, but supports the ideas of these challenges that have been put specifically to women. There must be a reason why. And I think it also goes back to that switch of power, so to speak. And it wasn't just really power, it was being seen and heard and worked with together. Like, that's the separation, is that part where it's hard for, not hard, but the programming was to have us work individually, which isn't terrible, but you see it in the grand everything. Okay. So the emergence of truths. So the religion, and then in the Church of Rome. Um, Sometime around August of next year, the regimes will topple. So we'll start seeing, it's really sad because a lot of not necessary bad things, as far as I'm concerned, will be happening as people are fighting these regimes and gaining the support needed from other places to help topple these regimes, was the message. Sometime in the summer of 2023, an earthquake, or quote unquote an unearthing, which I had mentioned before in one of my videos a long time ago, of the said library. So what is under the Vatican? So this can be literally like what is under the Vatican, like temples, or under the Vatican meaning like hidden by the Vatican. So unearthing could be like secrets coming out. Okay. Um, and then in this surfacing, so we relate the word surf and face to the water. And so the surfacing of the Great Mother, is a reminder, a resurfacing. Um, and so the agendas have been, and the agenda that will be kind of pushed is the agenda of global warming and the agenda of shortages, because that is an attack on the mental mind of capability and creation, which is we are capable of growing and nurturing ourselves. If you live in places where there seems to be clouds of mysterious stuff sticking around for a while, we can cover, you know, put things where they're semi covered so that isn't directly falling on them, putting our own feet and hands into the earth, re energizing the earth that way. And then also trying things out, learning where there might be a natural spring, learning how to filter water, learning how to render clay from the dirt that's around your house, learning how to navigate without lights or without GPS. These are things that will reconnect us to the planet, even if they don't become absolutely necessary. Then in this, we will understand our connection to weather and the earth and the capabilities of shifting weather. And we'll see distractions on top of that to keep us from practicing. Um, but we're getting to that. Okay. So, and the surfacing will look like we'll see more Indigenous women. We will just see more Indigenous women, more women, and more masculine speaking about the women, sharing the women's messages, uplifting and helping to support platforms of other women, specifically Indigenous women and women with um, like a connection to the planet and messages from love and earth and trees and animals and light language, such like that. And then stories, this is what, and more listening to them. Yeah. Stories will come from the mouths of the ancient reincarnated sipples, creator beings, and genetics. The calendars will be exposed, the Smithsonian, the governments, the banks, the churches will see mass exodus, meaning a lot of people will start leaving. There will be more whistleblowers. Um, Magic will be exposed, meaning the magic that's been perpetrated by those that we're like, that's not, that doesn't, not us, but others were like, no, there's no such thing as magic on that level. So numbers will be exposed, the years of agendas will be exposed, the internet and the education will be exposed, and these things are already being slightly exposed. And then languages, their connections, and the technology behind it will also be exposed. And so groups of rememberers, which are already forming right now and will be continuing to form, will collaborate and share these ancient ways. We'll be able to bring in connections. And then the slow return of the lands to the peoples. That's the message. That won't happen all next year. Not all of that will happen next year, but we'll see the beginnings of it happen next year. Um, Yeah, because the calendars link to the magic, which people are figuring out, which we talked about. Oops, goodness sakes. Okay, I think that's everything. Oh, I was gonna talk. Did I talk about Lilith already? Oh, who Lilith is? Who is Lilith? There's not a lot of information out there, but um, the energy I get is that she was a founding sister of this realm. Um, Helped to establish basically where we all live. Her sister's Anput. So Lilith would be the life force energy, and then Anput or input would be the input. So we have the mental, which comes from the Gemini air energy and put, and then we have the earth um, kind of bonding mystical energy of Lilith. And this is where we still have the continued names of lilies, Lillian. So I think Lillian and Sublime or Sibylla is linked. Line comes from Lilin. So, somewhat a little bit usurped information, transformed into the masculine, was actually usurped from Lilith. She, so the story, this came a long time ago, but I don't think I mentioned it before. So she's supposed to be the mother of demons. But from what I understand, she was a priestess here on this planet, and that's a hint. The demons or daemons or day mothers or devic mothers are um, extremely powerful and know the original truths. So the story became manipulated so that we would fear this information, which has been tampered with. It has been tampered with. But if we can get the information without the tampered side of it, meaning the years of like demonic, like evil energy that has been attached to it, of like the narcissistic, codependent, energy sucking energy of it, if that is not there, and um the resource of just knowledge would be applied, would be basically like Lilin and Lilith, and then the reverse stories would be like Enlil and Enoch, and Enlil would be Lilin. And so these stories that we've been told, and so this goes all the way back to the Pleiadians, because what we call heaven and God are actually planets and also beings outside of our conception in this realm right now. So she birthed the knowledge and held the um, energetic connection. And supposedly these sisters are still, and now Eve has joined them, which was 3 years ago, and that the cleansing with water was actually, so the first veil lifter was something that was proposed upon and came through a liquid form to awaken the people as to what is actually going on outside of. And so the next, like, fire, my guess is could be actual fire, but I'm hearing like firing and exposure, because fires can start from things being overexposed. It's just what she says right now. So and then the unearthing, and then the winds would be basically information, resurgence information. But that the three sisters, um, now Eve, Lilith, and Anput, are in the triple goddess meditation and working to basically, um, their meditation is to continue the truths coming out, so that the ultimate, because this trauma apparently goes back like into the creation energies, but will ultimately heal the entire like galactic energetic connection that we have where we're at, if we can conceive of that. Okay, so That's that Lilith part. Um, Thanks for watching. If you get a chance, check out my Patreon. Feel feel free to subscribe and support. There, I will be sharing a video about magic and um, certain ways to be able to undo certain spells that are not commonly seen or known, and a reading for those within the Patreon community, which will be timeless as you join. Okay, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching this Lies Mon video. And and then also the next video here, I will be doing more videos about the uh, intuitive muscle exercises, where that goes as far as healing everybody's traumas, the world's traumas, and your own traumas, and a share about the back chakras and more information that I've gotten. A little bit here, but mostly on Patreon. Okay, so a little bit of sound before I go. It's just so cool. Okay, until next time.